ahead.
Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. Helping Parents Heal goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non-dogmatic way. Helping Parents Heal affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and encourage open dialogue. Attendance at all Helping Parents Heal meetings is voluntary. All discussions that take place at affiliate-led meetings are confidential. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Zoom meetings run by leadership are not confidential. These meetings typically feature guest presenters and are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members worldwide can watch and benefit. Neither type of Helping Parents Heal meeting is designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with our children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members, so we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Thank you. We're so glad all of you could join us this night, and thank you, Suzanne, for being here.
Yes, thank you, Suzanne. And I am so excited to tell everyone that Suzanne participated in a fundraiser that was organized by Gordon Smith over in Scotland. He was one of our keynote speakers at our conference, and he will be again this time, raising money for scholarships for parents to attend the Helping Parents Heal #3 conference, which will be in August. And $10,000 was raised. The readings are going to take place on Saturday, and Suzanne will be participating in that. And we are so grateful to Suzanne for doing that. That's just an amazing, wonderful thing that she's doing. And I want to give a short bio, so I'll be reading her bio. Suzanne Giesemann is a teacher of personal transformation, an author, and a medium who has been recognized on the Watkins list of the 100 most spiritually influential living people. A former Navy commander with a master's degree in national security affairs, she served as a commanding officer and aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. She now shares the Awakened Way, a path to living a consciously connected and divinely guided life. She has authored 14 books, 6 best-selling Hemi-Sync recordings, and YouTube videos reaching millions of viewers. She produces the Daily Way inspirational messages, the Awakened Way app, and hosts the top-ranking Messages of Hope podcast. She leads classes, workshops, and retreats, and serves as faculty with the Shift Network and Humanities team. She is a member of the Evolutionary Leaders Circle, a group of thought leaders from diverse disciplines who help support a global shift in consciousness. Suzanne is known for her joyful, down-to-earth style of making deep spiritual concepts easy to understand. She laces her teachings with evidence-filled stories of the greater reality and practical tools that produce the personal experience of our multidimensional nature. Her messages bring hope and healing that go straight to the heart. And you can learn more about her work by going to www.suzannegiesemann.com. I will put that in the chat box. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming the beautiful Suzanne Giesemann. Welcome, Suzanne.
Hi, everybody. What a great way to spend the evening. It's just a joy to be with all of you. And listening to that biography, I suddenly get it. I was telling Irene and Elizabeth before we came on the air, I feel a little bad that I don't do the gallery readings for you all. But when I listened to that list of things that I'm doing, I thought, oh, no wonder. My favorite thing, my passion is teaching you how to connect to your own loved ones. That's my goal. We can give you the evidence, and I'm going to share some of that tonight. And that just changes hearts and minds in an instant, but nothing serves like the personal experience of connecting with your own child. So that's my passion. And I'm going to share some insights from some of the evidence that I got that may help you to understand the way readings go and how our loved ones do their best to show us that they're here. I'm sitting here as Elizabeth was reading the bio. I should have been paying attention. I should have had my phone upside down. It's turned off, but a text just came in from a shining light dad, who I'm going to feature at my keynote speech at the Helping Parents Heal conference. But his son came through so beautifully that it's going to take up half of my keynote. And he just wrote, and he said, I know you do a gazillion readings. I know you hear this all the time, but we just had a major validation from your reading, a sign that blew us away. Oh my goodness. So he doesn't say what the sign is, but I can't wait to hear. But that's what I love. And that's something right off the bat that's really important to understand. When you have a reading with the medium, the way you reply to the things they tell you either builds the energy field that you're in and helps the medium, or drags the energy down. You, as a sitter, a client in a reading, are as important to that energy field as your loved one's energy across the field and the medium's energy. So in that case, clearly I said something to this couple that didn't make sense at the time. So if somebody just says, no, I don't know what that is, that doesn't resonate with me, and just dismisses it, especially because it's not the thing you hope to hear, that does not help the energy. So a more helpful response would be, I just had somebody say that to me in my most recent reading. Let me think about that. And I laughed and I said, that is like the perfect response to give a medium, because it doesn't say no, it doesn't say yes, but I have to think about that. And it doesn't come up too often, and we don't want to hear that too often. We love the yeses, but I just teach everybody that a no isn't necessarily a no. It means I just don't know what that is right now. Some things are outright wrong, and that's just due to the nature of the communication. It's not like just picking up a phone and it's always crystal clear. We're like radio dials, right? And we have to tune in. Better said, we're like cell phone connections, and that kind of go in and out. And we aim for that 5-bar connection, but sometimes it's 3 bars. The worst thing is when it's 1 bar, or we're, worst of all, searching, right? But everybody's energy contributes to that. So I love that they just got another validation. We call that the after party, when the reading is over and we still continue to get validations or just celebrate what came through. I want to start just by sharing from my most recent reading a really cool piece of evidence. She wasn't a shining light mom. She wanted to hear from her mom, and she did. And the mother came through so clearly and said, I wasn't the best driver in the world. And I could tell, because I could see her in my mind's eye, like one of those people that they grip the wheel and they drive like this. And I said, your mom's telling me this is what she was like, but she's pointing at you now, talking to my client, the daughter. And she's saying, but you, however, are a bit of a terror on the road. And she's crooking her finger at you. And my client said, yeah, that's right on both accounts. That's the way mom was. And that's kind of the way I drive. And I started laughing. And this is what I want you to know, that this is real-time interactive conversations with somebody across the veil, just like your kids, who are still very much alive, but just not in a body. I put it in quotes because, we think that alive means you have to have a body, and you don't. They're creative and clever, and a good medium will be having a conversation with them. It's interactive. It's not pulling data out of the air. So in this case, this woman laughed and she said, tell my daughter, don't drive faster than your guardian angels can fly. And I reported that, and this is the magical moment. The woman said, I have that sign in my car. So there's always a reason for, I got goosebumps there. Maybe I'm picking it up from you guys too. There's a reason that things come through the way they do in a reading. I just thought of one, but it has to do with the one I'm going to share in August at the conference, so I can't share that with you. But your kids are so clever, and hopefully when you have a reading with a medium, they'll give you things that you'll understand right off the bat. So this is a very special day for our family. This is my stepdaughter Susan's birthday, and she crossed the veil in 2006. So I felt her today. I felt her yesterday. I feel her often when I sit to meditate. But what was really cool is my husband Ty, who's a retired destroyer captain, who says he would go back in the Navy in a second if they would take him. So he's still very, very, very military minded. He responded to a text from some mutual friends of Irene and Elizabeth and I. In fact, the Holohands, who are in my book still right here, they were reaching out to just remember Susan on her birthday. And Ty responded, "I'm out for a walk right now, and I can feel Susan walking with me." I just loved hearing that. That's just not something I hear from him too often. But as I mentioned in a class I taught earlier today, there are two reasons that my very military-minded husband believes and knows that Susan's with him. Number one, he was walking on a trail once, a trail he used to hike with his daughter, Susan, and thinking of her very fondly and sadly, and wishing she were with him. And he suddenly felt two fingers pressing on his arm so hard that it turned him to the side, and he turned to see who was there, and there was nobody there. But we know it was Susan. I've had her tap me on the shoulder. My friend Brenda tickles my hair. So be on the lookout for physical symptoms in your own body and don't dismiss it. Muscles twitching, they can do that because it's electrical activity that's kind of easy for our kids across the veil to do. So that was one way that Ty just absolutely came to know that Susan is still with us, but also just from all the evidence I've shared from all of my readings and from the times that Susan drops in on me, I put her to the test. I say, "Susan, I'm going to tell your dad that you're here visiting. What can you tell me that I don't know?" In fact, I just flashed back Irene and Elizabeth to sitting with both of you. No, Irene, you weren't there. This was the first time I had dinner with the Holohands and Elizabeth. This is also in still right here. And I was giving evidence to Elizabeth about her son Morgan and to the Holohands about their son Devin. And all of a sudden, I feel Susan over here. I didn't even know she was with me. And she said, "What about me?" And I said, "Oh gosh, Susan, you're here. But before I tell your dad, tell me something about him that I don't know." And she said, "Well, he has a toothache." And without even letting Ty know where I got it, I turned to him and I said, "You have a toothache?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Well, it just started this morning. I didn't say anything about it." And I said, "Well, yeah, Susan knows all about it," which I love. So do not hesitate to put your kids to the test like that. You'll know in your heart that they're here, but it's really fun to validate it for others who may question that, and really fun to validate for yourself as well. So it's very interesting. I didn't realize till today, hard to believe, our Susan would be 45 years old today. And she passed when I was 45, and I met her dad when he was 45. So I'll have to sit in meditation and ask, what is the meaning of this and what can we do with that? Because I'm all about looking for synchronicities and the web, and I hope you will be too. So when Susan passed, I'm not going to assume that all of you know my story. I won't tell the whole story, but those of you who are new to Helping Parents Heal might not know that I am not a born medium. So those of you who aren't connecting with your kids right now, I'm here. They call me the messenger of hope. I'm here to give you hope that I never saw a spirit till Susan passed. I didn't know there was an afterlife. I was raised with no religion and no belief in anything beyond this world because my parents just thought the big black curtain comes down and that's it. I hoped there was something more, but I didn't give it much thought until Susan passed. And as you know, that changes everything. Suddenly, I had to know that she was still with us. So I began reading and watching anything. Well, actually, we didn't have YouTube at the time, but watching DVDs, remember those, about the afterlife. And most importantly, I began meditating the very week she passed. And that's what I want to encourage all of you to do. Spend at least 5 to 10 minutes quietly every day, asking your children to make their presence known to you in the silence. That's what I did, and that's what ultimately paid off. I never gave up. It took me 3 years until I heard from Susan, and I never gave up. But you know what? She said to me years later, she wasn't supposed to come through to me because I needed to learn all the other things I learned in those 3 years of meditating, learning who we are as souls and what makes it possible for all of us to connect with our kids, learning to notice other signs, feeling my intuition come back online. We are all born with intuition, but we just set it aside because, hey, nowadays we have Siri, right? Who needs intuition? So yeah, that was me, 3 years. I'm not saying it's going to take you that long. Perhaps it's not your calling to be a medium, and your child will come through much more quickly because that's your main goal. But I did realize that just sitting and paying attention to my breath every day would not have had the same results. Just sitting and focusing on a candle would not have had the same results. I sat quietly and focused on, Susan, show me yourself in some way. That focus, that intention, that unwavering commitment and dedication resulted in this amazing, miraculous life and connection that I have now, and this unwavering certainty, this knowing the afterlife is real. Your kids are right here, just on a different channel of being. They're not in some far off place. Heaven is not out there. It's a different channel on the whole network of dimensions. So we set the intention to connect at their channel, and then we sit quietly and just notice what comes up. So I'm getting into some teaching here. Maybe it's nothing new for some of you, but I think that one little twist, that what you focus on is so important, combined with the commitment, will hopefully be really helpful for you in connecting with your own child. And again, don't be afraid to put them to the test. So I remember going to 2 different counselors in that year after Susan died. Ty went back to work right away. We had been sailing around the Mediterranean. We came back to the United States, gave up our sailing days. Ty went back to work, he tells people, for his mental health. So he just set all of that aside. And there I was at the house with no work and depressed. And I know you can all relate to that. And I went to see counselors, and they were no help whatsoever because they didn't have a child or a stepchild across the veil. They couldn't relate to that. And they certainly weren't going to talk to me about the afterlife. So it was that meditative practice that absolutely saved me, and going to see a medium. And that medium is my guest on my podcast this Sunday, Sophie Burnham. Sophie wasn't even a professional medium, but she and I were both attending a class by medium Anne Gaiman, who has since passed. I wanted a reading with Anne Gaiman more than anything, but she was not doing readings at the time, but she was teaching about the philosophy of spiritualism, which is the belief in the afterlife and that we can learn to connect with those who have passed. And Sophie was in that class with me, and we paired up with each other to do some psychometry exercises. You know, you share a piece of jewelry with somebody and see what you discern. I had never tried anything like this. This wasn't my goal. I wanted to connect with Susan, but you know, we can all learn to do that, to read the energy in objects. But meanwhile, as we're reporting to each other what we sense from our partner's jewelry, this woman, Sophie Burnham, across the room says, well, I discerned my partner's aunt standing behind her, and she was telling us all these things about her. And I went up to her afterwards and I said, are you a medium? And she said, well, I suppose so. But what she didn't tell me at the time was she's the woman who started the angel craze in the late 90s. There was a book called A Book of Angels, and she wrote it, became a multi-selling bestseller in 50 countries and 36 languages, and everybody started having angel statues. Where are mine, right? I have a couple of my own now, but back then I didn't believe in angels. And I said, would you do a reading for my husband and me? And she said, well, I suppose so. And I tell about that reading in my book, Messages of Hope. I changed her name, actually. She doesn't do readings like most of the mediums who Helping Parents Heal tests and verifies, but she sure changed our lives. So after that reading, I didn't need a counselor anymore. And I was starting to open up in my own meditation. So the fact that Helping Parents Heal encourages people to believe in an afterlife makes all the difference in the world. I didn't know anything about organizations like this back when Susan passed. And I'm glad I didn't go to one of the organizations that don't encourage you to consult mediums or talk about these things, because you might end up even more depressed than you go into the meeting. No offense to any of those organizations, but it's such a difference between woe is me and knowing your child is attending the meeting with you. Irene, as you were saying the mission statement, Carly was showing me a bathtub and a rubber ducky. I've been to your house enough times. I think you have rubber duckies in your house, but I couldn't remember that. Did somebody in your house just take a bath recently, or what's with the rubber duckies?
No, we had gotten a bath mat for when the grandchildren had visited, and it's a rubber duck bath mat. And I recently took it out of the bathtub and put it under the sink.
Oh, cool.
Nobody needs to use that, so I put it away, but it's rubber. It's all little rubber ducks.
Outstanding. Well, there's your gallery reading. She came in right.
Thank you.
Yeah, she just was right here. But the reason I brought her up is because when she dropped in on me, it's right what I just said to all of you right now. When we have Helping Parents Heal meetings, your kids attend the meetings. I got the goosebumps. So Carly, of course, she's leading the crowd, but she gathers everybody together, and I'm sure Morgan does too. But the kids all know each other across the veil. I didn't tell anybody about this. It was for the same woman who is not supposed to drive faster than her angels can fly. In that reading, I said, oh, and I'm hearing the name. I'm going to change the name because I don't have her permission to share this, but I'm hearing the name Stephen. She said, Stephen, I told a friend of mine I was having a reading with a medium. And she said, oh, maybe you can ask her if my son will come through. And Stephen is her son. And so we did get a few messages from Stephen. Now, see, it's all connected. Anybody who you know, and especially anybody who you love, when you gather and you're thinking of your loved ones, they're aware of that and they're aware of the connection. The web is truly amazing. So imagine all of your kids knowing the other kids across the veil, because you know each other and Helping Parents Heal. That is absolutely how it works. And they don't want us to remain as victims and depressed. So you can give them credit for pulling you into these meetings that are usually very uplifting. Okay, so I want to share with you a very lengthy set of validations, evidence that I got from a reading that I did just last month, I think. This mom was so eager to share it with everybody. And I said, would you mind waiting till after December 6th? Because I want to share this with the Helping Parents Heal folks first. And, oh, hang on a second. I just don't want to forget to tell you, when I said I went to a medium, I didn't know how to find good mediums at the time. In 2006, 2007, we didn't have Helping Parents Heal. But just today, somebody asked me, how can I find a good medium? And I said, I know you're not a shining light parent, but go to helpingparentsheal.org. Go to their list of providers. You want a list of mediums who have been rigorously tested. And let me tell you, the testing that HPH puts their mediums through is about as much of a guarantee you can get that you're going to get a very good medium. We can never guarantee that each reading is going to be good, but they're certainly going to give their best to you. So what a resource this organization is. So this reading I want to share with you. This is a special night to get to share it, because I won't share it again at the conference. I don't want to do a repeat for people who might have seen this or heard this online, but I want to honor Jess is the mom's name. And I met her recently. When was I in London? October. In October, I taught a 2-day class in personal mediumship in London. And Jess came in. I'd never met her, but she got in and marched right up to the front row, center seat, right on the aisle. It was like, this is my seat. I'm not going to miss a word. And she came up to me and she said, do you mind if I have my son here with me? And I looked at her kind of strangely, and she had put her son on like a little pillow, a cutout of him. So he was standing there, and she propped him up next to her chair so that he was with her. Now, I said, well, you know, he's with you anyway. You don't need the little pillow. And she said, that's okay. He goes with me everywhere. I said, why would I mind that? And I said, what's his name? And she said, well, his name was Dylan, but we called him Dills, D-Y-L-S. And she was British and is a member of the UK Helping Parents Heal. In fact, yeah, she might. I don't know if she's an affiliate leader of a small group or not. But regardless, during my class, Dylan dropped in on me, and I had a very quick message for his mom. And that doesn't usually happen when I'm teaching classes. But I knew because he was able to get through this barrier that goes up when I'm teaching, I said, I'm supposed to do a reading for you. So we did the reading after I got back to the US, and it was one of those beautiful celebrations. I like readings to flow, just one thing after another. And at the beginning, it flowed beautifully. But then we just started getting these huge wows that were so big that I knew every single thing that he was giving me was going to be a wow. And so I would say it and wait, like, here it comes. And his mom would give the validation, and we both just clapped and celebrated one thing after another. It became like this. Here's Dylan. Here it is. Mom celebrates and tells me why it's a big deal. So she gave me permission to share all of these big wows with you this evening, and maybe a little teaching to go with it so that you understand this is universal, the way your kids are trying to get through to you as well. So let's see. The first thing that I always do when I connect with a spirit is I want to feel their personality. I need to feel that because I was burned in a reading once where I was sure this man's father was with us. And I was giving evidence, and he kept saying, yes, yes, yes. And finally he said, you don't have my dad. I'm just saying yes because. That is such a disservice to any medium, to any spirit across the veil. But to me, it was such an eye-opener. And this was years ago. So it was actually a gift to me because I said, what was different about this? And I realized I couldn't feel his dad. So from then on, if I don't feel a loved one's presence and personality and capture their essence and be absolutely positive that this personality belongs to the person I'm talking to, I will call off a reading. So it was lovely when Dylan stepped in. I could feel him bubbly, enthusiastic, incredibly precocious in a loving way. And his mom said, oh yeah, you've got him. And when I teach classes, I tell everybody, if you go to a reading as a client, a sitter, or you're giving a reading, to me, the test of a successful reading, a good reading is, does the client leave and say, oh my God, that was my child, or that was my mom, or that was my husband? I've had too many readings of my own when I was the client and left and said, I don't know, that I really don't think that was Susan, or I really didn't sound like my mom. So, that's what we want, right? We want to be sure, because that's what changes our lives. Sophie Burnham's reading for my husband and me left no doubt. Susan was in that room, and it changed our lives. It helped our grief immensely. It put me here talking to you today. So I got Dylan's personality, and he showed me how he used to love to climb on his mom's lap and cuddle. I could just feel it. What a medium does is blends their energy field with the spirit coming through, and you get to experience what they felt. That's why I'll never say, oh, your mom is here, or your child is here, and they loved you so much, unless I feel that love. You just want to represent them correctly. So one of the first things he showed me, I said, he's very young when he passed, but he's playing soccer. And I corrected myself. I said, wait, I know in England you call that football. And she just went like this, and she said, I've had a lot of readings, and I know I shouldn't do this, but before every reading, I say, Dylan, I want to know it's you. So why don't you, and in this case, why don't you talk about football in the reading? And it was one of the first things out of his mouth. Personally, I was really glad to know she hadn't asked for that certain thing, because that puts pressure on the medium, and pressure is a detractor. You know, we want to be open and relaxed. So it's wonderful if your loved one can get through those special things, but be very, very happy with any evidence that says, yeah, that's my child. But anyway, he showed that right away. And next thing you know, I said, he's showing me, I've been in marching band. I was in marching band in high school, and he's showing me acting like the drum major. He's holding this baton and he's marching up and down, like leading everyone around school. Oh, she got so pleased. She said his teacher actually let him do that. He would lead the class up and down the hallway from one event to the next, even with a little baton. So clear, so beautiful. And one of the things I always ask those across the veil to tell me is, how did they pass? It's just a very simple piece of evidence that is helpful. And he said to me, I don't even have to ask. They just know, because my guide Brenda takes them in the green room beforehand and tells them, Suzanne's not going to be happy unless you tell them these certain things. They just know I want to hear that. So Dylan looked at me and he said, I got sick. And then I felt a fullness in my head. And his mother confirmed he had brain cancer. It did feel like a cancer. And he showed me he had trouble speaking, and she confirmed that as well. Those across the veil are very creative. They show me certain things, but I feel their physical symptoms. And I need everybody to understand, when I feel a fullness in the head or I get palpitations, that's a recreating symptoms by manipulating my energy field so that I can pass along that evidence. They don't carry any pain with them. They don't carry symptoms with them, okay? Because they are just perfectly fine. He showed me that he passed at 8 years old. And she said, yes, he was 8. And he said, Mom, you're going to be seeing all kinds of 8s from now on. I started seeing 8s since the reading. So you probably all get snagged by certain numbers. Snags are my expression for how your kids across the veil will grab your thoughts and cause you to look at the clock right when it's 11:11, or make you look up and notice that license plate out of hundreds of cars that are going by. And they merge with your field just like I do in a reading. That's how they get your attention and give you thoughts that you may not realize they're doing. So please give them credit for doing those things. Let's see. So then he showed me big block letters and an alphabet. And he was mixing them around. And I said, this has to do with his name, but I'm not getting what it is. Now, see, this is where it's okay to let your client help you out. As when they understand what their child is trying to get through, to me, that's all that matters. So I report everything I'm getting, and Jess told me she had just ordered a personalized license plate. I didn't even know they have those in England. And it had J.E., her name, 5-3, which I believe was a special date for him, and then D.Y.L. Of course, all big block letters having to do with his name. And I looked at her and I said, 5-3, what's that add up to, Mom? It's another 8. So the 8 started popping up right in the middle of the reading. So just remember that they called him Dills again, because that's going to be important at the end of this whole little tale. He showed me he wasn't afraid to get dirty. Now I'm thinking all little kids, especially little boys, like to get dirty. But I said, he's showing me like Pigpen from Charlie Brown here, kind of muddy. And see, the significance is, as we're sharing back and forth and celebrating that he's right here with us, she had just found a video of him playing in mud puddles and had just watched it. So one of the things my guide Brenda says to every spirit who comes through beforehand, look, Suzanne has to get current events to tell your loved one. So be sure you talk about things that happened recently. So clearly Brenda and Dylan were talking because Mom had just found that video, and I thought it was perfect. So then he raises his hands up and he says, "Goal!" She said, "Oh yeah, the football game that she had been watching just before the reading," and which is why she wanted him to talk about football, soccer. Her team had just scored the first goal, so she was still celebrating that. So your loved ones can drop in on you at any time, but anytime you're going to have a reading, special holidays, special occasions, anytime you talk to them, they are this close. And they know about things that happen within minutes beforehand and things that happen days beforehand. They are that much a part of your life. Now, I'll share this at the end. I don't want to break the flow here of this reading. Okay. And then he said, "Mom, I hear you singing our song." And sometimes I get lyrics, and I'll know, like with Irene, I know that her song is Somewhere Over the Rainbow, right? And it's got to be the one sung by Is. And that came up. Did that come up in your reading, Irene? You don't have to unmute yourself. If you're not, I can see you. Yeah, that came up. Or she not. Yeah, it comes up in a lot of, twice, she said, or the second reading. In any case, Dylan was saying, "I hear you singing our song." And I said to his mom, "I'm not hearing a title. I'm not hearing lyrics. I'm not hearing the song." And he's telling me I wouldn't know this song. It's something particular that the two of you would sing together and you would know what it is. And Mom said, "Not only do I know what it is, but they just sang it in the football game." And then she sang it for me. And it was something like, "I love you, Dylan. Yes, I do. I love you, Dylan. Yes, I do. Dylan, I love you." So it was one of those little ditties that I would never know. But on the football game, they had sung it for the guy who just made the goal. You see how this is just following on, just showing that he was very aware of that, but giving that evidence. "Mom, I'm right here, and I hear you singing our song." And then I said, he went like this just now. He opened up his shirt and said, "I'm Superman." And at this point, we're just celebrating these gold nuggets one after another. And she said, "Give me just a second. I'll be right back." And we were doing this by Zoom. She gets out of her chair, goes off camera, comes back holding, this little frame. And she turns it to me and she says, "Look at this picture." And it's Dylan, arms wide open, wearing the Superman t-shirt. So that's another thing Brenda pre-briefs the spirits on. Show me a photo, a favorite photo that's evidential. So he was just going right down the list with all of these things. He was just helping us out tremendously. This was a good one. Then he showed me that he loved to draw pictures. Do all kids love to draw pictures? Doodle, 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 doodle. And then I said, "And now he's handing you a daisy." She about lost it at this one. She said, this must have been a British expression. She says, "I promise you I'm not going to strip off." But she pulled off her outer sweater and she had a shirt on like this, and she pulls it down, and there is a doodle drawing of Dylan's that was made into a tattoo, and it's a daisy. See, this is what I say. I've been doing readings since 2009, and I still get this enthusiastic about it because I get to share it with all of you who may not have had or done 1,000 readings and know that this is so real. They're aware of your life now. They know what's going on, and they want so badly to let you know they're still with you. And then she was wearing a necklace. We can always see, that she had it, but I couldn't see it. It was under that shirt. And when she pulled it down, I see a necklace. And I said, "Well, your son just said, I'm on that necklace." And she pulled it out and she said, "Yeah, it's his actual photo." I don't see too many of those. Sometimes they're thumbprints, right? Sometimes people have the ashes, but I'm on that. That was like a phone call, he was that clear. And then he said, "This is clever. This shows the awareness, the connection of your kids with other members of Helping Parents Heal." Little 8-year-old Dylan said, "I'm going to keep sending you really good signs, Mom, just like Austin does." And I knew that he was referring to Colleen Smith, great medium, dear friend of mine. Her son, Austin, I brought him through several times very clearly, and he leaves the best signs I've ever heard of any spirit. And he says, I'm going to keep sending you signs, Mom, just like Austin. Well, she had been getting good signs. Now that gave her hope she's going to see more signs. But the really double meaning, the really good double meaning in that little piece of evidence was she had just gotten a children's book published, and she just received her first royalty check from the publisher, Austin Macaulay. So I just know that that was Dylan's way of validating, number one, I'm going to keep sending you signs. Number two, I know this guy, Austin, across the veil, and I'm studying with the best. And number three, I know about that royalty check, Mom. So very, very cool. Now, this is a message. This is, any good medium will balance the evidence with the messages. What does your child want you to know? And in this case, Dylan said, I do know how much you love me, Mom. And the way he said it that way, I made sure his mom knew that what he was saying is, I hear you all the time saying, do you know how much I love you, Dills? And she replied, I ask him all the time, do you know how much I love you, Dills? So how beautiful of a validation is that when you talk to your kids, they hear you word for word. And they're answering you. And if they need to come through a medium, okay, but just know that they are here and they hear you. And they do know how much you love them. Beautiful. Okay. All of a sudden, he gave me a burst of heartburn. And I knew that I didn't have heartburn. It felt exactly like mine. And I said, he's doing this little sign now. So I know you've been dealing with heartburn right around now. And Jess gave a kind of sheepish grin. And she said, well, I had a rather late night out with some friends last night. And yep, I'm really dealing with a sour stomach today. So they even know what we're feeling, which I thought was pretty fun. Oh, this one. Whew. Goosebumps before I even share it. He shows me he has a brother across the veil, padded here. And I knew he was telling me his brother had a hearing problem. And I knew that it was something that was resolved or came up since Dylan passed. This is super important so that you know that anything going on in your family, they're aware of and they're supportive of you. Well, get this. He does have a brother, and that brother needed surgery since Dylan passed. They actually had to remove his outer ear, fix something in the ear canal, and sew the ear back on. A pretty serious surgery. And his mom prayed to Dylan, will you help support me? Because the last thing she wanted to do was go back in a hospital where she had so many difficult memories from when Dylan was there. So she didn't know if he was there or not, but she had prayed to him. And here he came through to say that he knew all about that. So isn't that beautiful? Of course, they're going to be with you, your kids, throughout celebrations and challenging times. So never hesitate to reach out to them. All right. Now this one, I saved the best for last. I've been asking Spirit to help me with a big challenge that I have in readings. I tell all my students, we are all works in progress, and our progress is always onward and upward. We always get better when we're committed and dedicated and keep noticing where we can improve. And I notice that if I can't imagine something, it's very hard for the spirits to get it through to me. If you can't imagine that something could ever happen or that a parent or child would ever do a certain thing, it's hard for them to get it through. That's like a filter for the medium. So I'm so pleased that Dylan was clever enough to show me images that I understood to get through something that his mother absolutely knew what he was showing me. And here it is. And it's a little bizarre, maybe even a little, well, it's just unusual. We'll put it that way and let you make your own determination. But I said, Dylan is taking me back to his birth. And he's showing me he's just been born. He's lying on your stomach and the umbilical cord is still attached. And he's really pointing out the umbilical cord. And there's something to do with the way it was cut, or there's some hesitation, like it's still there. I hope you understand why he's showing this to me. He's making a big deal out of it. Are you ready for this? His mother still has the umbilical cord. She had just pulled it out 2 weeks earlier to try to harvest DNA from it, and she hadn't yet put it back. Is there any doubt that her son knows about that? 0, 0, 0. And to me, even though that's something we don't, I saw a couple faces on screen there go, ooh, still imagine mom's delight to know that her son knows all about that. And why wouldn't he? For the same reasons your kids know what you're doing in your daily lives. They hear your thoughts. They know your most mundane actions, but they absolutely give you your privacy. Trust me on that, okay? All right. So that was the reading. There were more things, but those were the gold nuggets, and it just left us glowing literally for days. Now I want to share with you this magical moment that actually happened in the class where I met Jess. She asked to share this with the group on day 2. And I'm so glad that I said yes, because we usually have so much to cover. There's not a lot of, sharing stories. I call these NOEs, no other explanation moments. Jess had to travel well over an hour to get to that London class. There was only one train that was going to get her to class on time. She was really worried about missing the train and being late. She wanted that front row seat. She didn't want to miss a thing about learning how to connect with her son herself. She gets on the train. She gets there on time. The train takes off. It's like 15 minutes underway, and the train broke down. But it broke down in a station. So she didn't realize it broke down. It's just not going anywhere, right? Can you imagine? You're like, I got to get to that front row. And she's sitting here and the train's not moving. The train's not moving. All of a sudden, they come on the loudspeakers and they say, everybody needs to get off the train, but get on the train across the platform, and you'll keep going that way. So everybody files off. She gets on a brand new train, random train car, random seat. Are you ready? Sits down in the seat, looks out the window, and etched in the glass on the window like graffiti, carved into the glass, are the letters DYLS. Dills, her son, as she's on her way to a class learning how to communicate with him. That to me is a setup from spirit. That to me is a sign of this web we're part of. It's why I dedicate my life to teaching what I call the awakened way of living. And it's 3 simple principles. You are not only human. And I hope just these few stories that I've shared with you this evening show you that. Why is this kind of communication possible? Because we're souls too. We are eternal spirits who communicate soul to soul from the heart. It's why you know your kids still exist. It's why you probably put up with people's scorn that you talk to your kids and look for signs and don't care, because you know they're here. That comes from the soul. And the more you can learn to tap into your soul and shift to the soul's perspective, the more you'll be able to tune into your kids as well, because they are eternal souls right here, right now, and they're not going anywhere. They love hanging out with you. And the second principle, you're part of one big web connecting all that is. And the web, boy, it just showed up in these stories tonight. And I know you see it. And you and I could sit down and tell NOEs all night, couldn't we? The signs from your kids. And doesn't that lift our souls? And the third principle is the healing, creative force with a capital F of the universe is love. And that's what binds us eternally to our kids. And it's what keeps us going. And it's the kind of love that means lack of separation. It doesn't come and go. It's what eternally binds us. So when you live your life from that knowing, I guarantee you will make a connection with your child. It can be no other way. But start to learn the ways that they communicate with us. It doesn't have to be in a reading. They have many ways of making their presence known. I'll have a book coming out in, boy, not till next October, but it's on mediumship. And it has 30 stories submitted by other people about their after-death communications and their mediumship experiences. And then in the beginning and the end of the book, I teach about mediumship and how we recognize the signs. And meanwhile, on my website, there are all kinds of free gifts on the gifts page. I just added a new meditation thanks to my wonderful team. Bev Garlip helps me putting all these things online and creating them. It's called Radiant Peace. And you can find it just by going to the homepage and scrolling down. It pops up as a pop-up Radiant Peace, and you can download that. And people are loving it because it's channeled. It carries that higher energy. The more you can sit in the higher energy and imbue yourself with that, you're raising your vibration so your kids don't have to lower theirs so much, and you meet in the middle. That's why they call us mediums. We help you meet in the middle, or the intermediaries. I don't usually watch TV. First of all, I don't find enough of value to watch, but number two, I'm just too busy. But I need a break every now and then. So I usually find one series and I just watch that. And lately, my lovely friend Lynette has introduced me to a show called Saving Hope. And it's about a doctor in a hospital who sees spirits and doesn't want anybody to know. And the episode that I watched last night was a Christmas special. And it showed something, very rarely do they show things that aren't how they would happen with the spirits, but last night it was not accurate. They showed a little boy that was hanging out of the hospital because he had passed there, and his mother came to visit him on Christmas, and he was waiting there to meet her. And they made it seem like he was sad because his mom was sad. And they made it seem like, oh, she's not going to visit anymore because she's moved on, and he was going to now leave. My friends, it is not like that at all. This was filmed in Canada, or I would have said that's Hollywood, but that is Hollywood. That's what people think until you start to connect with spirit and you learn what I hope I've shared with you tonight and what all of the wonderful guests on Helping Parents Heal Zoom meetings show you, that they're always with you, that they will be there waiting for you when you cross, be the first ones to greet you with open arms. Doesn't matter if their greater soul has reincarnated. The child who you know will still be the child you know, because they are eternally a part of a much bigger soul than one role that soul was playing as me and you and them. Come to know how the soul really operates and you'll understand they're not going anywhere. You are soul family for all eternity. And when we leave our bodies, we don't have to go to the light. We are the light. We're always in the light. We create experiences with our own mind. So in that story, that little boy was like, I have to leave now. I have to go to the light. No, he's already in the light. You're already in the light. So I just believe that's just a misunderstanding. I'm going to get a little goofy here before we end. I just did this on a film. I was filmed for a documentary last Friday, and I surprised the filmmaker by pulling out a pen and doing what I'm going to do with you now. I didn't really expect to do it, but I'm going to draw something on my hand here for a second. All right. So I like to teach with analogies. So here we have a couple of little finger puppets. All right. Can you see? Can you see the little faces? Yeah. All right. So here's your soul family. It's you and your child and somebody else in your family, right? And here you are playing your roles here in physical form. Now, if these were real finger puppets, they'd have little costumes on it. What happens when we pass is we take off the costume, but these are the souls playing roles. Take this away and look. This is your soul family. Already connected, already totally connected. So all that happens when we pass is, we pull off the costume. If I had the little like hand knitted finger puppet here, I would just pull that off. That's the body. The body's gone, but the soul remains. You can't separate your soul family from each other. You're eternally connected. So that's just a little analogy that I hope shows you how close they are. They're just, without that costume, they're vibrating at a different frequency that makes it a little more challenging to sense their presence, especially when we depend upon our physical senses. Sit in the silence regularly so that you turn up, you activate your soul senses. One of the best methods is my sip of the divine. So go on YouTube and do Suzanne Giesemann, No More Meditation Excuses. That's the title. It'll teach you my 3-minute sip of the divine practice. If you can't find 3 minutes a day, I have no rejoinder to that. There's no answer. I know you can find 3 minutes a day because I know we all love communicating with our kids. So carve out that time every day and just sit there and say, make your presence known to me. Now, I don't do that anymore for Susan. I don't need to. And that's my goal for you, that you don't need to hear from them every day. And I never heard from her every day, but sitting quietly every day will build your energy field to the point that when your loved ones want to get through to you, you will notice. That's the goal. So that's the teaching in a nutshell. Gosh, we could just talk for weeks, but I hope that I've shared something with you, something helpful with you this evening, and certainly hope that we've uplifted you and given you lots of hope, because, you know, hope is one level. It's like the first step, but you go from hope to absolute knowing. Your kids are still part of the family, eternally part of your soul family. Thank you guys so much.
This has been beautiful. And I just want to let you know that in the chat box, we have Megan saying, thank you, Suzanne. I know I'm not the only one whose life you've impacted so positively. Your podcast saved me and opened me up to the idea that my daughter truly never died. From there, she took over and did the rest. We all love you and appreciate your work. As well as Kathy, who's saying your knowing and enthusiasm is infective. Thank you. Everyone else is saying thank you. Binu is saying thank you, Suzanne. You're a lifesaver. Susan Franklin is saying thank you so much, Suzanne. What an uplifting message you shared with us. And this has been also throughout the other messages that have arrived. I just want to let all of you know that one of the best books to start with, because Suzanne has written 14 books, obviously, is Messages of Hope. It's very easy to read. It's something that just kind of explains what happened to her when she felt this transformation.
May I interrupt here a second, Elizabeth? One of the best benefits of Messages of Hope is if you have a partner who's very left brain and needs convincing. Because of my military background, it really helps men to believe and say, oh, okay, well, if this person who was aide to the chairman and was a commander and her husband's a captain, if they could go to a medium and if they can believe this, okay, maybe I can put my toe in the water and start to believe. So that's the most frequent comment I get from people, that it was that helpful.
Exactly. And it is a beautifully written book, but it's easy to understand. There's a CD as well to be able to see it in real time. So Suzanne and Ty are both in that, as well as some of their beautiful dachshunds. And it's a lot of fun because it takes place, obviously, on a boat. It takes place in other areas, but it does explain Suzanne's background, which is very different from a lot of the mediums that we have on Helping Parents Heal.
Yeah, that's on YouTube, Messages of Hope, the documentary, and it's also on Amazon Prime.
Okay, good. So that is important to know. So on YouTube and on Amazon Prime, I will put that in the information on this video as well. And we really appreciate you being on here. This has just been wonderful. And it's so fun to hear about these different readings that you do and the evidence that you're able to bring through. And I think that it's such a perfect meeting for the holidays. And I know that everyone on here, Irene, did you want to say something before we let
No, just thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I just want everybody to acknowledge Irene and Elizabeth, who give more of their time for a volunteer organization than anybody I have ever known. Every day. It's beyond a full-time job with, yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just deserve so much.
It's a pleasure. I tell everyone, if I can do it, you can do it. Elizabeth helped me and you've helped me tremendously, Suzanne. So thank you. Well, thank you. And we ask everyone to unmute and say thank you to Suzanne, and we'll see everybody soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Great night.
Thank you.
So good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Wow, look at